Tapping in.
Are we live?
I had an amazing time during the World Cup hosted in Brazil. I was in Colombia at the time, and my God, you couldn't tell that the World Cup wasn't being hosted in Colombia. If you were in Colombia on the streets at that time, you would have thought the World Cup was being hosted there because of how live it was, right? We had everything but the stadium with the soccer in it. We had crowds in the streets. We had vendors in the streets. We had flags. We had jerseys. And ever since then, because I got to go through a university, a job, shout out to ISEC, man, you know, enabling all types of fun, learning, and debauchery. Y'all know what y'all on. And it was this incredible opportunity. And ever since then, I've always thought, man, like one of the biggest like bucket list things is I want to go with my homies to the World Cup. You one of those homies, man. Will you come? Will you go with me to the World Cup?
I'll definitely go with you to the World Cup, especially if it's in Colombia. Now, on that Colombia point, Miles, because the vulnerable are powerful on this show, explain to us what you got up to in Colombia celebrating the World Cup.
Actually, we are never everything relate back to Impact on this show. I was actually there as a part of an internship because one, I thought I was a Spanish minor. I didn't have my credits aligned, right? So again, shouting out to all the students, make sure the classes you take and the credits align, add up for you to graduate. I was just taking mad Spanish classes thinking I was a Spanish minor, but you had to take specific ones, right? I had the amount of credits, but not the right credits. I digest. I was like, so we went over there and we were actually part of an internship that was supporting nonprofits. So one of them was called Juelitas de Amor, which is translated to Paw Prints of Love, which was actually there's a huge stray dog issue in Bogota, specifically in Colombia, and in a few other cities as well. But like people just kind of, you know, have dogs, have pets, let them go as life transitions mean that they are unable to care for the animals. Lots of stray dogs. We were trying to help a shelter increase its reach, increase people's awareness so that people would know kind of when you see a stray dog, what can you do? Can you call a shelter? How do you have to wait? Like kind of create a protocol. We also helped a couple of other nonprofits in the area, but that was the project that I was closest to and cared the most about. Shout out to the puppy lovers out there, right? So that was fly. And also I got to explore Bogota, Tirana, Medellin, and you know, it was an amazing time. I was with a whole bunch of cool folks. Shout out to Esteban that I still talk to, man. I need to visit Mexico City to holler at some of the homies that I met over there. It was amazing, though.
And you can tell the way my brother says Medellin and Bogota that he's really about that Spanish life.
Yeah, I'm trying. I need to do more immersion, right? So Colombia, I'm coming back. But this year's World Cup is in Qatar. Now, I ain't saying I don't want to go, but we can't. It's too expensive. There's a lot. We'll get into it. Why? There's a lot going on with this specifically year's World Cup. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to, as somebody who's going to join me on our journey whenever we do get to go to a World Cup, I wanted to get a little bit of your background on football. Did you play as a kid? Were you in leagues? Are you any good now? Like, is it a part of your life? Do you body people on FIFA? What's up?
So the last time I actually played sports, that I actually played football, like on a sports team, was in 5th grade, in grade 5, and I was in a boarding school at the time, and at the time the boarding school had a mixture of kids that were coming from homes and shelters and orphanages, and there was like a scheme to house those kids in the boarding, so we all were in boarding school together. And I was so excited to put on these new soccer shoes that my pops had bought me. And as I put them on, went onto the field, didn't play particularly well. When I got off, he goes, man, one of the kids goes, man, I hate these kids with new shoes that can't play.
That hurts. That hurts. Yo, because as you get older, you realize everybody's thinking it. You can't, if you got some fly shoes, and if your shorts match your shoes, and if your shorts and shoes match your socks, you better have some moves. If
That was
not,
the that,
you definitely getting clowned.
that was the last time I played soccer for a professional team. So having moved around and spent a lot of times in the US and outside of huge soccer cities, I've always gravitated more towards uh, basketball than soccer. But soccer is a global sport, and football, depending on which part of the world you're in. Because if you're in the UK and you say soccer instead of football, that those are fighting words. Those are clear fighting words, and so that just speaks to how the world feels about soccer. So at this particular World Cup that you're speaking about, when you were in Bogota, I was celebrating in South Africa, which also hosted the World Cup a few years prior to that. And I was able to be there, had the privilege and opportunity of going to watch at the finals, box seats, box seats. You know what I'm saying?
See, you live in my dreams right now. Like that. Well, how was that? That must have been crazy.
That was great. That was great. And had a great time at that World Cup. But afterwards, there were a lot of things that came up about how the World Cup was put together. There was a big scandal involving Sepp Blatter, who was the president at the time in 2015. A huge FIFA scandal about corruption and mismanagement of funds was beginning to brew about the organization. And there's the iconic picture where someone throws a bunch of dollar bills at Sepp Blatter and they're falling on him at the height of his corruption charges, just kind of life imitating art in a way, and just showing this blatant corruption that was at the core of the FIFA tournament. So after that, it's been hard to look at that organization the same because you understand, like, okay, there's clearly a deep, dark corruption that happens in these organizations, and that always spills out into the countries where they decide to land on.
Mm, mm. And such is the concern in Qatar, right? So, after a lot of back and forth, Russia being excluded from consideration over the war in Ukraine, it was determined that the 2022 World Cup would be in Qatar. 1.2 million people are expected to pull up in Doha, right? That's crazy.
Ooh.
That's a lot. That's a city moving to a city. That's nuts, right? Like y'all all about to have new neighbors. They're building 8 stadiums for this John, right? But they haven't released a lot of the hotels. That's fire.
Mhm.
Yo, we got to black and white that and make that a print. Shout out to the YouTube audience, seeing this iconic picture of. Can you say who that was again? That's fire.
This is Sepp Blatter, who is the of the president of FIFA. So this is the image where they're throwing money at him at a conference at the height of his corruption scandals, where it was found that FIFA was taking bribes in order to decide which countries they were going to play at, also which sponsorships they were going to take on. These are huge multi-billion dollar lucrative marketing deals that they have. And so there was a lot of malfeasance, if you will, about the FIFA organization. This is a cool picture. I should definitely make it onto our merch. And we already got chills in the comments.
Yo, big facts, big facts. But which Hula Gang? Shout out the Hula Gang out here. But what we need is that black and white, right, with the word malfeasance underneath it as a shirt. That's what we need. That's gonna be all the way live merch. Big facts. So, but the reason there be so much malfeasance, right, and corruption and schemage behind all of these practices and these picking of who's going to be there is that it's a huge opportunity, right? To the homies in the U.S., it's like where the Super Bowl going to be. You already know that it's going to be popping. A lot of the businesses and restaurants around there are going to have a huge opportunity to make revenue, right? What's crazy though, in Qatar, drinking alcohol is usually limited to hotels and private homes. They are gonna ease that up for the World Cup. You know what I'm saying? And there also are some considerations around some other human rights issues in Qatar that they're under pressure to alleviate in advance of the World Cup, which means they got to get their stuff together. So that kind of brings this interesting question to the forefront of like, it's a huge opportunity for any country that gets it. And it seems like it can also be used as a carrot now in this day and age, even as you said, where people care more, right, to like clean up your act. But do we believe that that's really happening? And should we? And is that an appropriate thing to do? Right, is to use the World Cup as a carrot to countries and say, "Hey, get this in order, and maybe you can host."
So part of the Olympic effect that you see happen that FIFA has also been accused of is that they require countries to make massive investments into the infrastructure to accommodate all the people that are coming. But a lot of the times, after the people have left, the infrastructure becomes dilapidated. You see a lot of loss in capital. The studies that are showing that, in fact, having these events hosted in your country doesn't break you into the green. Is that a lot of countries actually lose money by accommodating these massive events more than they do gain money coming from them. Although it is a good marketing opportunity for a country, the returns on it aren't necessarily fully profitable, if you will. And so Ramadan Mubarak. There you go to our folks, because Ramadan started a few days ago. So, in speaking about the UAE, in speaking about now Qatar, and then them lifting the alcohol ban that they have. On one end, it's a good thing because it's more inclusive and people have options. But then, on the other hand, you're right. It does pose a bit of an issue, I guess.
Yeah, they got a couple issues on their hands, real talk. They're actually already questions about the treatment of workers, right? Both for the staffing of events that they will hold, as well as questions of how workers have been treated during the prior construction, right? They have this beautiful stadium, one of their 8 that they're building that's already created. The air condition is in there on full blast, keeping everything crispy. But there are some questions about some of the workers and some of the treatment, and even issues that workers might have been injured and that they're not coming out about, right? So there's that. There's also the fact that there's laws in Qatar that criminalize homosexuality. So it's making people feel like, well, and I feel them, right? If if there was a place that said, hey, no hip hop podcasting, social uplift dudes allowed. Oh, but you could come for this one event. I don't know if I would really be inclined to engage them and go to that one event. I think I might be scared, right? And so they're saying the statement from the government is in the planning board is that everyone is welcome. But Loki, that ain't even specific enough. I need you to tell me that nobody will be hurt.
Everyone is welcome is not specific enough. That's the name of the podcast.
Yo.
But I like what you're speaking about in terms of the employment and the workers there, which speaks to the comment that we have, which is what human rights law are they going to ease up on? So the main human rights law that is being impacted or offended right now is the worker safety and worker health. Last they checked, over 100 workers have died in Qatar in the preparation of the World Cup.
What?
So that's true. That's true.
That's great.
So over that time, a lot of these workers are people that are coming in from Malaysia, coming in from India, coming in from some of the Asian countries, moving into work in Qatar and Dubai. Both places have a wide international worker worker population. So a lot of the people that are dying are not people from Qatar; it's actually people from India. Forced to work in these rather harsh conditions. One of the human rights issues within that region is also abuse to women, which is something that happens quite often. Domestic abuse also runs quite high in those areas. So there is a lot to take in, but the one thing that does stand out is how many people have lost their lives while preparing for this World Cup, which is sparking a lot of talk and outrage, which happened before COVID. People were speaking up on it that there's blood that blood is what covers this next World Cup.
Man. Well, I'm glad we ain't book our tickets for this one. I'm just saying. But like that's I didn't have the full numbers on how many people had passed as a part of this. Like that's inexcusable. That's crazy, and that does make it hard to want to support this. What's supposed to be a joyous event, like you said, much like the Olympics, where countries are coming together and people are coming together. Um, Not always peacefully. We'll get into that in a minute in the hooliganism aspect, but that is that hurts to hear, man. That hurts to hear. What do we do in the face of that? What do we do when we know an event like this is attached to something so horrible? Do we protest? Do we not watch? Do we? That's trash.
What we can do is bring it up over here on the All the Way Live podcast, research it, give it to the people, and those that are active in those areas will have more information about it. That's the most you can do, and the biggest protest you can do is the protest with your money. I say the biggest thing you can do is withhold your money from capitalism, or from whatever it is that's gonna take into whatever it is that's gonna feed into that system. Just protest with your cash. Don't go.
Wow. We got Black Beanie's Way on the podcast today. He said, withhold your cash from the capitalist system. We are making progress on this podcast. And he's absolutely right, man. That's what we do is we talk about it. You gotta know to be a hypocrite, baby. So now you know what you're gonna do. We don't know what we're gonna do. Put it in the comments, like, subscribe, hit us up. Man, it gets deep. It gets deep. But we ain't done with this football segment because check this out, man. The other thing they got to watch out for, in addition to making sure that they have everything correct with their infrastructure and whatnot, is that people take this sport very seriously now. Like people get very spirited, very it goes there over football, man. It goes there, right? There's been an escalation even in football related violence like over the past few years, and it's resulted in some pretty like horrifying events. I think this one that you got pulled up is from La Liga. This was like a few months ago in Mexico. Two of the teams, Atlas and Querétaro, got into it, and like this isn't a one-off instance, right? Last summer at the championship final in Wembley, things got crazy, things got hectic. This is a thing in football, apparently. What do you know of this?
Well, I'm in the United Kingdom, sir. This is the home of soccer hooligans, if you will. And what I know is that once I touched down over here and I saw the type of fandom these people have around here, I immediately booked myself for a boxing class and have since been training like Rocky, just in case. I've been running upstairs.
Oh.
I am the tigering it since I saw the type of fun these boys like having around here. And quite frankly, I don't know if I can say I'm the biggest fan, but I do understand the culture element of it. And so in this particular story that we're looking at in La Liga, you had 60 people that were injured. I believe 8 people were dead. Something similar like this happened in South Africa, not for hooliganism, but it was overcrowding at a stadium and a bunch of people were trampled and passed away. So specifically with the hooligan aspect of it, it's terrifying, dude. As a black man in the United Kingdom, watching it's quite terrifying for me, which is why.
Say more about that. Say more about that. Because there's a connection. Like, go ahead.
It's because it's because there's a spillover of the line between violence and fun is very thin. It's very, very thin. And when it spills over, it doesn't always discriminate who it's going to spill over to. So you'll have people that are leaving the bar just very, very intoxicated, and their idea of fun is fighting, and a lot of those people tend to gravitate towards hooligan teams. Bro, there were buses outside of where I stay next to the train station that was organizing for soccer hooligans to go to some sports game. And I was laughing because I was saying, bro, hooligans have a group chat and then there's order and they get onto a
Ah,
bus and have teams. There's somebody that's taking sizes for hooligans t-shirts because they all have shirts.
big facts, big facts. Yo, check out. There's a Vice documentary called Rivals on the kind of rivalry in Serbia between its two top soccer teams called the Eternal Derby. It's nuts, but somebody is definitely taking t-shirt sizes. Somebody is definitely letting people know there's flyers. It's very organized, right? And on the one hand, that's cool, bro. Like create community around the things that you care about for sure. But there's this other element where that's dangerous and you putting people at risk. And specifically with football hooliganism, it's like you got kids that are 10, 12, 13 in these crowds. And it actually like watching the footage and doing research for a lot of this stuff, it actually reminded me of what happened at Astro World, right? Where you got people like knocking over gates, right? You got people rushing, trying to get through the ticket counters. You got fights breaking out, right? You got all of this fueled by alcohol and drugs in the mix, right? Especially like I'm thinking of the championships at Wembley, and it's like I'm all for having fun. I'm all for turning up. Started this whole segment by saying I want to be at these events, right? But how do we draw a line? How do we create some type of agreements of where how we're going to interact with each other, how we're going to engage with each other, and how we're going to look out for each other at this type of, you know what I mean? I want to go here with you, my friends, and my girl, but what, you know what I mean? When people are throwing trash cans and glass bottles, right? Like, how do we create a safe situation?
A lot of it is also fueled by COVID. Let's not forget that we've been cooped up and different countries have taken COVID differently, but a lot of the world was shut down for a long time. So you're seeing a lot of pent up post COVID energy that's showing itself. And a lot of people that have gone to some of these festivals have spoken about the mania that comes from it, which is also to no shock, understanding the type of mental health issues that arose from us being in COVID as well. So recently there was a video of someone that pulled a gun on Mike Tyson at a comedy show. And clearly, as this person was doing it, you could tell one, they were too excited in the moment, but two, that person wasn't of mental sound. So it, that's how it's manifesting itself. Like there's a hype to being outside, and then sometimes it spills over like this and like Astroworld, like you said.
That's nuts. But I mean, this is all information for the organizers, yo. Like I really hope that the folks that are in charge of planning, um, that's the problem with this being such a opportunity. Even though you said it leaves a lot of countries in the red, clearly a lot of countries go after it, see it as a mark of some type of status, right? And so I really hope that everybody who's involved in the planning, the organizing of this event, is preparing for anything and everything that might go down, right? Like there's no surprise, right? Like we've seen this type of thing happen over and over. I just hope that everybody gets to have a safe, good time, and that it don't have to go that far, right? That I just, man, yo, yeah, prayers to the people that's going into it. It makes me think, man. It makes me think because the 2026 World Cup is supposed to be in the USA, Canada, or Mexico. So this is coming this side, and I want to engage in it. I want to have fun, but like I said, man, like I want to be able to do it safely. I don't want to have to risk being arrested, being involved in a fight, or involve anybody I bring to that space being hurt. It's crazy.